Welcome back to the channel, everybody. As promised, today we're gonna wrench on the R8. This bad girl needs a couple things dialed in because we got some plans for it. Stay tuned to see if it'll be in this video or maybe another one. I'm not really sure yet how this will go, but the reason she's on the lift today is because she's crying. She is crying. So unfortunately, the rear shock has a leak in it. So we got another one ordered. Pick this one up. We're gonna get that replaced. It's actually a fairly easy process to replace, so we'll get that done. There's a couple other minor things that I want to take care of also. I noticed that this trim piece is a little loose and it shouldn't do that. As you can see, this one over here is sturdy. And then another thing we got going on over here is the carbon side pod, for some reason, is a little loose down there. I don't know if there's a missing screw or whatever it is. So we're gonna pull that apart and give it a diagnostic and figure out what's wrong with it. The last and final thing, again, all small things, is we are going to adjust the hood latch release on this because it doesn't really bother the car when it's warm or even hot outside, but like when it's cooler in the winter time and things like that, this side of the hood latch, it has a dual release. This side seems to stick every once in a while, and then the frunk won't open. So we're gonna pop the trim open and see if we can't make a minor adjustment to get it to release a little easier. Pretty easy stuff, but you know, it's just one of those things. Try to take care of your equipment and the equipment will take care of you. Let's dig into this. So as you can see here, the lower portion of the shock has some moisture there. The upper side looks dry, so it's probably just leaking from the bottom there, but we're gonna get it replaced. And all we gotta do to get the shock out is we gotta pull this fender liner out so we can get access to the upper bolt. And then there is a lower bolt here that holds the sway bar link on, and that will pull the shock right out. So a fairly easy fix, but we just got to get to it. Like I mentioned, fender liner is a pretty easy thing to take out too. So in order to get it out, you need a T25 Torx bit and a T30 Torx bit, and then a 10mm socket and your power tools of choice to make it an easy job. All right, I also forgot to mention you might need a small screwdriver and a body clip tool if you have one, or a screwdriver and a pliers would work just the same, but there are a couple body clips around the panel that you gotta pull off. Counts. Not too bad. So as I mentioned, once you get the fender liner out, you can see and access a lot more things underneath here, but what we really needed access to is that bolt right there. And in order to get the bolt out, you could use a wrench, but if we pull this intake tube off here, which is just a Torx bit here, this intake tube pulls right out, and then we can get a wrench or socket in that access port right there to get the top bolt out. Single bolt there. That's the T30 Torx bit. And then this intake pipe just slides off there, just like that. Now we got access for our bolt. So to get the top bolt out, it is an 18mm socket, and the bottom bolt and nut are also an 18mm socket. Crack loose. Now we can use our favorite power tools. And now with a little persuasion, shock comes right out. All right, so just like that, the shock was pretty easy to get out. Now we just got to put it back in. Let's just speed things up a little bit. Well, that wasn't too terribly difficult. We got the shock replaced. Arguably, it was harder to take the fender liner in and out than it was to replace the shock itself. And with that said, let's move on to something a little easier. Let's get the car lowered down and take a look at this rear deck trim piece. For this next part, it's a pretty easy process. I've recently taken the deck lid off before because I put some drop-in K&N air intakes to replace the old factory ones, just some routine maintenance, and figured why not upgrade in the process without going too crazy. In order to get the deck lid off, you need to remove a couple of T30 Torx bits. There's one here on this side that holds the deck lid on. There's one on the opposite side, and then there's also one here in the middle that needs to come out. And then there's some studs with some rubber grommets that kind of stick in there, and they need to be pried out gently. So we're going to tape off this and make sure that we don't scuff this nice fresh paint that I recently paint corrected and ceramic coated. All right, guys, we got the deck lid here on the workbench. We're gonna zip out these 5mm Allens and separate the two pieces and take a peek and see what's going on. We got the deck lid separated from the plastic trim, and as soon as I pull it apart, you can immediately see. So it looks like there's some glue, epoxy resin, or something that holds these two plastic pieces together, which have just separated and come loose. So we're gonna reapply some epoxy in there, get her cleaned up, and reassemble. We got the trim piece pulled apart. We just had to take these little silver clips off, which adhere to these little plastic tabs here. There's 4 of them that you have to take off, and then the glue is the only thing that holds the rest of it together. So we just use a small screwdriver to kind of pry it apart. The glue is not super sticky. It's not like an epoxy or anything. It's like a semi-rigid, it's like silicone adhesive. So it actually pulls off pretty easy, as you can see. We're gonna get that all cleaned up. We got some new adhesive to put on there. It takes about 24 hours to cure, so we'll leave it assembled on the bench till it cures, and then we'll put it back in the car. While we wait for that, we'll start on the next little project. All right, now we're gonna move on to the front of the car. We're gonna try to adjust the latch on the Frunk. See, gotta push it twice to get it to work. And that's because this side right here is sticking. So it looks like we got some plastic clips and some screws here. So we'll get this all pulled apart and take a look. We got the trim piece off. There's just a handful of these quarter turn fasteners that hold it on, and then a couple of Torx screws. There is a small one here. I think it's a T27, and then the two T30s, one here and one there. And that allows you to pull the plastic trim off. This job is as easy as I expecting. There's a small adjustment mechanism here to change the tension on this. So we'll try to turn it one way. Oh, the wrong way. So we'll turn it back and we'll give it a half turn the other direction just to tighten this cable a little bit. So when it pulls on it, it releases. Let's give her all a test try. All right, so now when we push the button to open the frunk, it should release completely. Oh yeah, up the first time. It didn't have to double click it. So let's give her one more test. Make sure it's repeatable. If not, we'll adjust it a little bit more. Oh yeah, she pops right up now, so awesome. As easy of a job as I thought it was. I'm glad it was that simple. Let's put the trim piece back together, clean it up a bit, and then we'll move on to the side pod project. Dang, she looks good. Even though she needs a bath, but she still looks great. And now that we got the frunk taken care of, made that minor adjustment, working good now, we're gonna move on to fixing the side pod. I'm not sure exactly what's wrong with it. I know there's a couple of bolts. There's a bolt that holds the side pod in, and it's either loose or missing, which is why this is coming out like that. Or if this is held in by the same type of glue that the deck trim piece is and it's failing, that could be a possibility too. So we got a couple of pieces of plastic to pull out of the way, a couple screws, and we'll get this thing apart and figure out why it's flopping around. All right, let's see what we need to do to take this apart. All right, let's get this thing taken apart. We got some good news. As I was getting ready to pull the trim panel off on the side, I was thinking back through the manual and the instructions of how to tear it all apart and what bolts and things that hold it together. And it kind of dawned on me. I remember seeing that there was some sort of like cam grommet that a bolt goes through to allow it to spin so you can adjust the pod in and out so it fits flush with the actual body of the car. And I was like, man, I wonder if that bolt's just missing or loose. Let me see what kind of bolt it is before I can, get in there and all that stuff. So I grabbed my little USB camera, and there's a port on the bottom so you don't actually have to pull this side skirt off. So they're just a plug, and you can access that bolt that holds this side pod on. Well, I got my camera shoved in there, and, well, sort of bad news, but good news also is the bolt's not missing, but if you actually pull on the bottom of the side pod, it's just loose. So it's not missing. It's not broken, so all we gotta do is just get a socket in there and tighten her up, and that should complete that portion of the project. So we're gonna see if we can use this camera to see up in there while we do this. I believe this may be a 10 mil, but I got a couple other sockets if it's not, and I'll try not to bump my camera out of the way, but we might have to reposition because there's a couple things to get around. Oop, all right, there's the socket. Hey, it's a 10 mil. How did I get so lucky on the first try? All right, we're gonna push the side pod in. And just like that, she's tight. Now you can see the side pod is nice and firm. Excellent. Wow, what an easy fix. Thankfully, nothing was broken. I got the socket on there, only had to give it like a quarter turn to snug it up. Now the side pod is held securely in place just like it's supposed to be. That'll finish up that portion of the project. And with that said, all we have left to do is wait for some adhesive to dry. So I got some clamps on here to hold it snugly in place while it cures. And I guess we'll just have to wait until tomorrow to finish that up. So until then, I'll see you guys in the morning. Good morning, guys. We're back in the shop and we're gonna get this deck lid back on the R8 and finish up this project. So we're gonna pull off these clamps, reassemble the trim piece back to the main deck lid, and then install it back onto the car. Well, we got our rear deck lid all reassembled. All the bolts are tight, a little bit of Loctite. And as I mentioned before, there's these little studs with a little rubber grommet, and that's right here. So those will pop in first, and then we'll put our T30 Torx bits in there, and that will complete it. All right, we'll put the deck lid in, plug our cable back in. Alrighty, now we just pop homegirl down nice and gently. There we go. Nice click. Well, that's going to take care of the fixes and repairs for the R8 that we wanted to make, none of which were very difficult. We just took our time and made sure everything went smoothly. She's looking great, got everything dialed in, and we do have something special in store for this in a future episode, so you're going to want to stay tuned for that. Or so I thought. As you can see behind me, I was getting ready to do a full feature on the R8, but such is life. Things kind of pop up when you least expect them. A lot of you guys don't know, I've actually been planning on getting rid of the R8 for quite some time now. It just so happens that it happened in the middle of me wanting to do a feature episode. I'm meeting up with somebody later this afternoon. There's a high probability they're going to want the car. If not, I'll continue to make the episode. If I don't, well, you'll see the reason why I got rid of the car in a future episode. With that, come join me in one last ride in the R8. As always, thanks for tuning in, and we'll see you in the next one.